Hey, my name is Zeke, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I do 3D keychains. I'm going to be walking you through the process using Clip Studio Paint. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to show you how I set up my files here. I like to use inches as my unit, and we are going to make a 3x3 keychain. Later we're going to add the margins. If you want, you can up your DPI to 600, which is what I prefer. DPI is dots per inch. That only matters in printing, and that means the literal dots of ink per inch of paper. It does not matter in digital, but I like to work at a really high resolution, especially for printing. With that, go ahead and click OK. Now we have our square. I'm going to be working with a symmetrical design, so I'm going to go right here to my tools and use a symmetrical ruler. I have my settings, as you can see, set to snap angle. Without that, it's kind of hard to get a straight line on the screen there. So if I do snap angle, I can make a perfect vertical line. You'll notice it's not centered, so what I'll do is use my object tool here, click on my ruler, and now I'm going to go into alignment, and that's one of the subtool settings here. I'm going to align it to the center of my screen. This is where I can begin to do the sketch for my design. And I like to work with a pink under sketch just out of habit. There we go. So if I want to do a keychain of one of my personas, I'm just going to start like so. Now for the 3D keychains, what I'm going to be making 3D are the eyes. I want it to look like the eyes are following the user, very similar to how you would make a fursuit eyes follow you using the 3 dimensions to create the optical illusion of following eyes. So for that, I kind of want my style to be a little bit bigger eyes than I usually draw. But, that's really up to you. I also wanted to test with something for my 3D keychains and see if I could do like a cute mouth. So on one layer, I might have the top jaw, and then on the second, I might do the bottom teeth. And we'll see how that goes. That might look a little bit weird. I don't know. Now, to make the pupils, I like to use the special ruler, concentric circle, and what that does is create a nice, perfect pupil. I use my object tool here, and I can move this. I can also resize it. I can rotate it. I don't want to do, once you get it into a position you think you'd like, you can go ahead and draw it like so. Now you'll notice it's also doing the symmetrical ruler at the same time as the concentric ruler. If you want to turn any of them off, use your object tool, click the ruler, and click this tiny little triangle, and that will turn off the ruler, so now I can continue drawing while keeping that circle there if I need it. And again, object tool, click it, and that triangle will turn it back on. We can use that for making the pupils. A little bit creepy. I like to move mine around. I'll show you how I do that in the inking stage. But for now, let's go ahead and turn this off and continue. You'll notice I am using on the right there on my webcam, you'll see I've got the razor, and it's a gaming shortcut key thing, but I like to use it for art because it has a lot of keys. You can zoom in and zoom out without having to use your hand. You can change your brush size left and right. It's really convenient. I highly recommend taking the time to get to know your tools and know all your shortcuts. Because once you have your shortcuts, you can work really efficiently and quickly. You'll notice I'm not going back to my toolbar here, constantly going between the eraser and the brush, because I have a shortcut key for that. And all kinds of other settings too. You notice I can switch my colors. I can also turn on and off my ruler. What I mean by that is this button right here at the top. What it does is allows you to use symmetry or not. So with that turned off, no symmetry. With this turned on, I'm using my symmetry tool. So for that, I am going to use it just so that I can. This is all too big. Let's go ahead and scale it down. I am going to hold Alt while I do that. And what that'll do is it will scale it down by the center there, because we want to keep that symmetry line in the center. That should probably do it. I have very huge ears. Let me pull up my reference of the character real quick. Oh, there it is. Alright, so this is the character I'm making. This is my Lexio persona, named Lexio. Very creative, I know. And I think that's probably good. I'm just kind of making some modifications right now. So with a symmetrical design, you really want to kind of play with the actual symmetry so that it's not too even and sterile looking. So even if that's just changing up a little bit of the hair pieces or something like that, it's always good to kind of add some variety to it. Now I'm ready to go into the inking stage. What I'm going to do is lower the opacity on this sketch layer here, like so. I'm going to create a vector layer because I always work in vector, and I'll show you why as I work. That is going to be this new layer button with a three-dimensional cube in it. And I want all of my rulers that I had before into it, so I'm going to click the ruler here, and then I'm going to drag it into my layer. Now I have all of my rulers from before on a separate layer than my sketch. When I ink, I use a variety of the original G Pen brush that comes with Clip Studio. I just call it G Pen Fat because I changed the minimum brush width to, as you can see, about 29%. And what that means is the minimum size that my brush will get when I'm drawing thick to thin will only be 29% of the maximum width of whatever brush width I'm using. And that just cleans up my edges, because without that, I'll show you what that looks like. It can get a little bit sloppy if I'm not actively trying to use my line width control. And it just kind of makes things look a little bit cartoonier and cleaner. So that's what I'm going to be using. And I'm going to show you guys why I really like using vector layers. I'm just trying to see a good brush width. Yeah, that looks good. So now that I've made like these little intersections here, because I'm using a vector layer, when I go to erase, it is a vector eraser. And right here, this cool setting, I can erase any line up to an intersection. So all I have to do is tap it once, and it erases all the way up to the center there. I also like to use this tool here, pinch vector line with connect lines. What that does is as I move some lines around, they'll actually connect each other. Like these two are separate lines, as you see here. When I connect them, they automatically do that for me. But, I like to clean it up a little bit, like so. I'm erasing this because I'm trying to create a interesting and appealing shape of fluff. I don't want all my fluffs to look even. So I'm trying to get a nice balance of thick pieces and small pieces, just because it makes the whole design look a little bit more appealing overall. Sometimes it takes a few turns to get it right. And I'm going to use that vector eraser like I told you before. Dunk, dunk. Connect those two lines. I have not connected this, so I'm going to use pinch vector line, and I'm going to pull them so that there's no gaps in my line art. Add a chin, erase the extra lines, and there we go. Now you can also use the concentric ruler to make a more circular eye. I probably should do that. But let me go ahead and draw my pupils in first. Which I think should be like so. Whoop. Gotta turn on the ruler. There we go. Now for the pupils, I like to put it a little bit more cross-eyed, just a hair. And I like to make them a little bit more oblong, not by much. Ta-da! So cute. Now I'm actually going to delete this ruler because I don't need it. And I'm going to create a new concentric circle. I'm going to try to get the shape as close to the eyes that I drew as possible. And then to make it look a little less sterile, I'll show you what I do after this. So we've got that. And let's go ahead and add the whites in the eyes while I still have this ruler, because I want to keep that transparent. I'm going to show you a little trick. I am going to quickly create a raster layer. This is going to be for the whites of the eyes. Turn off the background so you can see what I mean. Grab this ruler, pull it down here, and white. I'm going to complete the circle here, just so that I have the same consistency with my pupils as I do with the rest of the whites of the eyes. Doesn't have to be entirely perfect. There we go. Turn everything back on. You don't really see it right now, but that'll come into play later. Pull my ruler back to my inks, and here's what I'm going to do. I personally think that the eyes look really hollow right now. They don't look very cute. What I like to do to add a little bit of variety to this circular shape is I'm going to use that pinch vector line. This time I'm going to change the fixed ends so that both ends are fixed. And what that will do will be that it keeps it kind of even with that white line that I drew. But now what I can do is I can change the shape of the eye any way that I want. And you can see what it's doing here. And it's still keeping those two ends completely fixed, which will give you the illusion of still keeping that circular eye shape. So let's do something a little bit more appealing. And it's all kind of about the subtleties of things. I just like to make the top of the eye a little bit bigger like so. Not by much. Any adjustments are going to go a long way. And I think that looks good. Yeah, I think so. Now that I've done that all though, I kinda wish I had drawn the pupils a little bit bigger. Let's see. What I'm going to do to test this theory out, I'm just going to cut that, put that on a separate layer. I'm going to turn this off for now. That's my backup, so in case I draw a pupil I don't like, um, I can always come back to it. So let's see if we can make some cuter eyes. um, um, I don't know, maybe. Let's mess with that. Let's make it slightly more cross-eyed, a little bit oblong. Creepy. Oh, it's kind of cute. Um, Maybe we go with that. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, sure. All right, I'm done with this. I'm going to erase that ruler, get it out of my way. Actually, no. I'm going to need that because what I like to do. I'll come back to that. Anywho, for now, I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to turn on my sketch layer and go back to this. So, because we are working with 3D keychains, we still have to keep in mind which layers we want what things. Pupils, I'm going to move to a separate layer. I also kind of want my teeth on a separate layer too. It might turn out weird seeing the teeth be 3D, but that's kind of the purpose of this test. We'll see how weird that gets. Um, I've changed my line width now. It doesn't match the rest of my pen, so I want to know what brush size I was using before. Take my object tool, click on this. I was using a brush size of 25. So let's go back to that. I don't really like the arc of that hat. Let's see. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. Oh, I like to zoom in and out just so I get a good idea of what the keychain will look like from afar and up close. I think that's kind of cute. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the other layer. That's going to be the 3D layer, the one that moves to that optical illusion that I was talking about. And like I said, we want our pupils on that layer. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and paste that onto its own layer. We're going to call this one uh, middle, I guess. This one is our top layer. Okay, well, and on our middle layer, let's grab our rulers, turn this transparent. So this is going to be the entire middle layer. It's going to have a slight 3D effect. I don't know how this is going to look, so let's find out. Uh, because it's going to be seen at so many different angles, I want to make sure that I complete it. I can't just leave it floating. I have to have something here. Because when you look at it from the side, you'll kind of catch a glimpse of some more of it. So let's see what that'll look like. Gonna be kind of creepy. Um, yeah, I think that's good. Back of the throat. And I'll do more on that in the coloring stage. But for now, let's work on what next. I guess let's jump right into the coloring stage because we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and color this middle stage here. So this one should be much brighter. Like that. And notice I'm just taking eyedropper and I'm just kind of picking up the colors because it's adding it to my color history palette. And now I have all these eye colors just to pull from as soon as I go into here. So this is my flat color layer. It is a raster layer underneath my inks for the middle. I'm going to pull those rulers in because I want that symmetry. And I'm going to use black first. This is just kind of how I do eyes, obviously. You can draw your eyes however you like. Maybe those pupils are too big. I don't know. Now we're going to use that ruler that I kept on this. There we go. um, to make it a little bit smaller. Honestly, that's like so. And I like to do it like so. Yeah, I think that's going to be cute. We'll work with it. I think I'm done with this ruler. Turn that off. That's not what I said. Mm, eh. Now, the thing about eye shines is um, I don't like when they're symmetrical because it doesn't make sense with how light works. Light comes from a single source, and all the shadow is opposite the side of the light. So, in reality, if our light is coming from one certain side, I'd really like to reflect that in the eyes overall. What I'm doing here is just taking the outlines of the pupils and merging it so that when I add the whites of the eyes that go over top of everything, like so. What I'm going to do is make this on the vector layer, the shine, and I'll show you why. I want that exact shine to be right here. I'm just going to copy and paste it. There we go. That's looking cute. What else? Kind of creepy. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it'll be all right. What do I know? And now that we have the flat colors there, let's go ahead and do. Oh, I'm already starting to realize some tricky issues with this mouth theory of mine. Hmm, I'm considering maybe I think I'll put them on the same layer as the top and just make the eyes move. Because that would be kind of weird if the teeth move too. Oh, the problem is this middle layer is going to look like this and includes the whites of the eyes that we had before. Um, but it's also going to include the pink of the mouth, and I don't want to see the pink of the mouth while I'm looking at the eyes. That's kind of the tricky part. Um, let's just see what happens. Where is that? Hmm. No, I'm going to take the whites of the eyes here. What's going on? And move them on a separate layer. Let's label our layers so we know what we're doing. The reason I want that on a separate layer is this is actually going to mark the whole of the eye, not on the top layer. So that technically goes over there. And have our middle layer. The middle layer is going to be mostly white. And then it's going to have some like pink in this area, but I don't know. Bring in that roller again. I don't know. You know, it's so close to the whites of the eyes. I don't want to look down and see some creepy mouth parts, but I also don't want to look into the mouth and see whites of the eyes. Let's see how this is going to turn out. Oops. I think I think that should be good. And then turn that off for now. It looks very creepy. This is all kind of part of the process. This is potentially nightmare fuel. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We're gonna go with it. Ah! Okay, now the reason that I have this overflow is this is going to be called the bleed. Uh, it's not going to show, it's going to be hidden by most of this keychain, but for the printer, they're going to want to make it so that when they cut out this figure, they are not trying to match it exactly line to line. Um, and that's just going to be how that works. Okay, let's move on. Turn that off for now. And let me get other colors here. Okay, we're going to want our own flat color layer for the top. Bring in our ruler for symmetry's sake. And that's kind of why we had this whites of the eye. So now we can actually turn that off. And this is going to be the layer, and everything transparent is going to be what we see underneath it. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, I'll work with it like this so you can kind of see what I mean. I should also explain how I am fill coloring everything so easily. I'm using the paint bucket, paint unfilled area. You can see my settings here on the left. This closes the gap between lines. This is, if I turn this off, it fills the entire canvas. Area scaling, what this does is it will actually add a little bit of extra overflow to my paint. I usually like to turn that on. Fill up to vector path. Now the vector path is this little red dotted line that you see here. Now when it fills up to vector path, that means it's going to fill into my line so it doesn't leave that ugly little halo that you often see when using a paint bucket. That's also, again, why I like to use vector layers. And all of these settings here. Anti-aliasing, that means the closer you zoom in, you kind of see these transparent little pixels. When you turn that off, it turns it into hard pixels, like you would see in a video game, an 8-bit video game. And this section here is the most important part. This is your reference, like what you're referencing, this first one here, that references every layer as if it's on the same layer. So even though my line art layer is here, when I'm paint bucketing here, it's acting as if it's all merged. So I like to do that. You can also set individual reference layers with this one. And by coming into here, and you'll notice that same symbol on the top to set the reference layer. That's just personal preference. Now, the reason I don't include the vector path entirely is when using thinner line art, it tends to kind of overflow the line and makes it look a little bit choppier. So, whoop, that's why I have the settings I do. What now? What now? Every now and then you have problems like this where it's overfilling the thing and you don't know why. So I'm going to try to connect the corners there. Maybe there's a gap in my line. Yeah, there's a gap in my line that was creating the problem there. You never know. It's a little finicky. It takes some getting used to, but once you do, it can become a really powerful tool. We want the teeth to be painted. Don't forget to paint your whites. Now I like to use this for effect line. What this does is the entire line will automatically taper at the ends no matter what you do. It's perfect for hair shines to get that sort of feathered look. And you can vary the size of it, how thin or thick you want them to be. You'll notice here I'm not using that symmetry tool because, again, I kind of want some of it to look a little bit organic. I don't know that I'm achieving that. Let's try. Let's try bigger brush. Fewer strokes. Something like that is kind of nice. I don't really know. So I find drawing curves like this with my wrist, doing curves like that, it's kind of hard. I like to draw into my own wrist, so what I will do oftentimes is flip the canvas, which is this right here. Now, when I'm drawing these arcs, I am doing a motion with my hand that is more comfortable. I'm able to arc inwards instead of outwards. That's a good use of the flip canvas tool there. And for the hair, I think I am going to do symmetry. This is just to sort of break up the light here. And I don't think I want to use that tool. I'm going to go here. Oof. Now. There we go. What this does is I'm just pulling out that color from the hat there. Don't want to overlap my hat on the other side of the symmetry, so like so, I think. And then maybe yeah. You'll see that a lot of this process is kind of just trial and error. Don't be afraid to try something. If it sucks, there's always an undo button. Um, yeah, I think that looks okay. I like to add a little bit of shading. I don't typically shade my keychains. I just think it adds a lot of unnecessary detail. But let me show you what I do when I do shade. I want to make a new layer. Set it to multiply. Turn my line art as the reference layer, like we talked about before. Go back to my shading layer. Now when I use my magic wand tool, my settings for my magic wand, I'm going to set the reference to that reference layer. Blink. Except, except my line art layer has a hole. So strike that, reference everything. Anyway, now I am going to use a color for my shade. Never shade in black. I think it makes the colors look really muddy. I'll show you what I mean. Um, that's ugly, right? Instead, we want our colors in our shading. And we want it to kind of reflect, like, warm shadows on warm colors look nice. If you really like more contrast, cool colors on uh, warm color, or cool shades on warm colors adds a very different vibe. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So that's like a bluish. I'll add some more saturation. You can really see what I mean. As opposed to something like a pink. Yeah. So let's go with something kind of in between. My go-to shade color is sort of either like a warm violet or a cool violet, depending on what I'm really going for. In this case, I think I'll do warm, and then I'll add a little bit of highlight by erasing the shadow just on the edge of the cap, and that gives the brim of the cap some dimension, like so. Don't really want to add too much other shading, really. Don't want to overdo it. Yeah, honestly, I think that's good to go. So now we have our top layer. We have our middle layer, the horror layer. And what we're going to do next is the back layer. So this keychain, it has a 3D effect, and then when you flip the keychain over, you're going to see a one solid color. So I'm going to make that the back of this character's head, which is kind of easy because we already have the silhouette. We want to use the exact same silhouette for the back of the head because that's going to be the shape of your keychain, like how it's cut out. So we are going to duplicate this. We are going to call this back layer, like so. The difficult part is that hat that I drew. Yeah, we want that back. I was on 25. Keep in fat. I just got to get it close enough because now I can use my pinch vector tool and adjust as necessary. Let's do that there. Let's do it like so. Beautiful. Now I'm going to rotate my canvas a little so I can get a better arc on this. Yeah. I'll figure that out in a second. Okay. I'm just using my imagination right now. It might look like nonsense to you, but hopefully it'll make sense as I start to erase some stuff out here, like so. Back of the head. We don't need any of these details. Again, this is kind of where that vector tool really comes into play, because I don't have to manually scrub every single line. I can just pass my brush over it once. And there's even a tool where I can get rid of the entire thing, so like the whole mouth. This entire line that I don't need. Like so, like so. Great. Now we just have this hat. We could bring back our ruler that we might desperately need and retry this back of the hat thing. It would help if I turned it on. There we go. Hmm. Except my back of the hat, it's not really, I mean, he's wearing his hat at a weird angle. So maybe we'll keep what I had before. No, 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 no. We'll figure something out. Again, I'm just making it up as I go along. I want to make sure that these lines are connected. They're not. Again, cool thing about the vector layer, we can really manipulate it to however we want it to look. Well, that looks good. Wait, where'd it go? Sometimes I accidentally undo my lines. That's really annoying. No. Okay. Again, I'm gonna flip that canvas so that I'm making an easier arcing motion with my hand. Just gotta get it close enough to move everything into place, like so. And now, the thing about this is our ears. Starting to realize my ear shape doesn't make a lot of sense. That's fine. As I'm erasing, I'm just careful to keep the silhouette exactly the same. That's really what's most important right now. I can't add or take away anything to the silhouette because that'll change the overall cut. Like that. Can't do that. Can't even do that. That's what we'll do. Sometimes you gotta fine tune some stuff. You can use the control point tool and delete very specific points like that one. You can also move the points if you had to. I don't know that we do. What's this? Perfect. Yeah. That's kind of like a back of the head. I don't really like that, honestly. I wonder if. Let me try something. No. Okay. Yeah, oh well. That's the back of the head. That's how it looks. We're going with it. Again, his head is at an angle, so I'm gonna do the back of the cap at an angle too. Beautiful. All right. And let's do a bit of hair fluff like that. That's kind of cute. Yeah, yeah. Now let's bring back the colors that we had before. Yellow, blue, yellow, black, hair shine. Add those flat colors into here. There's our blue from our history. Kind of weird. Um, shine. I don't know. I'm going to lock this layer. What that means is everything that I draw now is only going to affect the pixels on this layer. Very helpful for doing things like, I don't know, shading or hair shine in this case. Do I want my symmetry back? I do. Ooh, excuse me, I'm the wrong layer. Helps if I turn on the symmetry. To take the time to mention that I am using the Wacom 113 Touch. It is a touch responsive Wacom tablet with the screen, so it pretty much operates like an iPad, but it plugs into your computer. It is not a standalone tablet. I'm using a B-Link mini PC as my computer. Um, yeah. And let's grab that hat color. And let's go ahead and add that little. Do we want the ball? You know, the weird thing is his hat is tilted, but his ears are symmetrical, and that's kind of what's throwing me off. Oh well. I don't really know. Um, Weird, right? Gotta turn that off. We had any of the hat showing there. And it's the best we can do. Is it the best we can do? Is it the best we can do? No, it's just anything else is gonna look like I don't know how to draw. Right? Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of cute. I don't know. But like, why is the hat? Why would the hat? I mean, this is also the thing. Like, it doesn't actually make sense. But maybe that's okay. Let's try that. Now I'm going to use this as my, oops, not you, just you as my reference layer. I'm going to create another thing just so that I can pop that color in there nice and flat. Merge that down. It makes sense to me. And we're going to do that little hat ball thing that's on the top of the hat. You could add seams to the hat, but I think that'll make the holes even weirder that they're there. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I won't even add the ball. Maybe that's weird. I just don't know. It only makes sense in like Disney space, right? Like Mickey ears. It was never meant to be seen from the front and back at the same time. But it is what it is. Let's do that anyway. I think that's permissible. It'll do. Doesn't make logical sense why the holes in the hat. Eh. But what else can we do? I mean, the only other thing would be to make the holes actually make sense. making holes actually makes sense. I don't know about that. You know, see, because then it looks weird, right? Doesn't that look weird? Does that look better? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Let's go with it. Sometimes good enough has to be enough. Especially when you want to actually get something done. I'm not gonna like think about this too hard. I am going to fix that. So, no, it just looks like I don't know how to make an ear. No, I don't like it. Going back. Going back to weird. Whatever, we're done. Um, I'm calling it. We want that same shade thing going on. Not darken. We want to change that to multiply. Just the hat. The shade color was here, I think. Gradient tool. Back of the hat. Erase the edge just for some dimension. Et voila. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna call it. So that's the back. This is a very lengthy process. I haven't saved. I highly recommend saving. Saving is good for you. Keychain, not all caps. Alexio. Sure. Now, we can't just send this file to our printer. They're going to want very specific layers. Definitely check with your manufacturer exactly what they want, because they might ask for a PSD layer. They might ask for individual things. If they ask for a PSD, they're going to ask for them to be labeled a certain way. The manufacturer that I am going with has specifics, so I'm going to do it according to that. Again, this might vary, so this part of the tutorial, take it with a grain of salt. Always check with the manufacturer. But here we go. I am going to create a second file where I merge all these little layers together. I like to keep a file that is unmerged in case I need to go back and make some edits. So let's save this as a second one. We're going to call this 2. And now we are going to merge everything together, which will actually undo all my naming on my layers. Oh well. Merge. I'll have a shortcut key for that. Okay. Merge selected. We're going to get rid of that eye whites layer. We don't need that anymore. This part's the weird one. And that is extra, extra, extra. So we don't need any of those. Now, at this point, because the manufacturer is asking for a little bit of a bleed around the character, I am going to go ahead and edit the canvas size to about 3¼ like so. I'll add some extra. Also means that we do that here on this weird middle layer. This is just the bleed. This will all get cropped out eventually. Why am I getting notifications? Okay, like so. Now, what we want to do, use the magic wand, get the silhouette of our character. We are going to invert that selection, and we are Going to increase that selection size, so that is under select. Expand selected area. I like rounded edges, that's up to you. Pixels, it's kind of hard to tell, so I'm going to start with 50. Yeah, a little bit more than that. Select, expand, we'll do another 50. Maybe not. We'll do a... There's another way to do this. That's a little bit more complex that I typically do, but I think this is maybe the easiest way to do it. Now, what this is kind of like our, like, you know, when you cut out the keychain, it's going to have like a little bit of clear around it. So we're going to make that a new layer. We're going to trace that with outliner selection. We only need it to be like 2 pixels big. I like to do it on the outside, and we're going to name this the margin cuts. I don't know. Depends on, again, what your manufacturer wants it titled. I actually don't know. I think I'm doing this right. But the other cut line I want is going to be for this weirdo layer, right? Like it's its own layer, but we want it cut in the shape of this guy. So what we are going to do is, again, just take the outside shape and invert it. And this layer we are going to trace just like this. I will show you what that means in a second. Outline it in pink, outline it in black. Yes. Ta-da! So now we have these 2 lines, right? We have the actual cut line. This is where I want the manufacturer to cut exactly like where the character would be cut out. And everything else around this I want to be transparent. And that's the margin for where I want the acrylic to actually go. You know, I don't know if they need that, but I do know that they need this. This is called the cut line. That's our back layer. That's our top layer. And that's our middle. So I think that's everything. Again, I don't know if they need this or not. So I'll leave that layer off for now. I'm going to have my cut line, top of the character, middle layer, and back. So he should look like this, but cut out to this shape, like so. And then back of his head looks like so. And that is it. Again, name all of your layers what you need them named. Name the file what they've requested it to be named. So mine is going to be called Lexio _ 70 centimeters 3D keychain 10 pieces. That's how many I want. And the last thing would be the clasp. So I have to look that up. I don't have that on me right now, but I'll change the name later. Clasp. And they want a PSD. So just make sure that you follow the instructions of your manufacturer. That will make them very happy. And that is it, gang. Yeah, so let me know in the comments what you thought about this video. Was it too rambling? Was it long? Did it make sense? Did you enjoy it? Please, any kind of feedback that you can give me would be greatly appreciated. So don't forget to like and subscribe, whether on Twitch or YouTube, and I hope to see you guys around sometime again. Thank you all for hanging out, and bye.